Hate speech is almost becoming a phenomenon, a canker worm, as what concerns the Republic of Cameroon. Hate speech on social media, hate speech on a daily basis. Hate speech, why the promotion of hate speech, who or what is responsible? That is our first topic of the day. Our second topic of the day, of course, will be what happened in Bafoussam the other day between Honorable Nuran Fortin of the National Reconciliation Party of Kabralibi and the police. Who takes the blame? Is it because we are an MP that we should not respect the law? Or is it because we are a police officer that we think that we are above certain things? And then we equally know that Joe Chebonken Kalabuse, the president of the National Communication Council, visited Camdis Television. It was, of course, on Friday. I want to believe that with the collaboration of all the technicians that we have, we shall be having an excerpt of Joe Chebonken, who, of course, came here as a friend, came to say that Camdis is a newborn baby, but that he believes, and the National Communication Council too believes, that Camdis is forging ahead. Our third topic of the day will be public manifestations. A manifestation was declared, of course, by the Cameroon's Renaissance Movement, the party of Professor Maurice Kamto. But this manifestation has been prohibited by the authorities. What does the law say? Of course, those are the topics of today. Once again, good evening and welcome to the Republican debate. The Republican debate is on the Republican television, Camdis Television, a television that has come to stay. And of course, we have men of substance, men of caliber, and I'll begin with him. They call him Ponenji Silvanus. He is of the USDP party. Good evening, sir, and welcome to the Republican debate.
Good evening, Mr. Dabi. It's a delight being with you here to talk on the Republican values and what ought to, and also what ought not to, so that we can forge ahead as a Cameroon Republic.
It's a pleasure for us to receive you in the program. Equally with us here, we have the Deputy Secretary General of the Cameroon's Renaissance Movement, the CRM party of Professor Maurice Kamto. They call him Justin Roger Noir. He is here with us. Good evening, sir, and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Tabi. Good evening to my co-panelists, and good evening to our members and sympathizers who are still in prison in places like Douala, Yaoundé, Bafoussam, and Fou. They are in prison because of their political opinion, whereas the regime says we are in a democracy. Our members and sympathizers are being denied justice because until now, after more than 10 months in prison, they have not yet been actually judged by the magistrates there in the criminal, the military courts around in Douala, Yaoundé, and other places. I think this is the denial of justice is a threat to the rights of citizens, and particularly to the rights of our members.
I just wanted to say good evening. It was just to say good evening.
I'm saying good evening to our members in prison. Okay. Wherever I go, I do it.
You are welcome, Roger Justin Noir of the Cameroon's Renaissance Movement. Equally with us here, they call him Gine Bane Elvis of the People's or the Popular Action Party, the PAP, of course, of Jang Dennis. How are you today, Mr. Gine?
Well, good evening, Mr. Tabi. I must say I'm doing well. Good evening to all viewers from Cameroon television. Good evening to all viewers, and I want to say it's been a very long while I've not been here, and so it's a pleasure for me to be back here on your platform. And it's always a pleasure for us whenever we are given this opportunity to come here to be able to discuss some of those issues that actually do touch on our nation and to propose solutions as to what we think should be done so that we can forge on as a people.
How is the PAP party?
Well, as usual, we are forging on. The PAP is doing well, and we keep multiplying our strategies to see what we can do to bring about change as far as Cameroon is concerned.
We are in the Republic, we are in Cameroon, and we love our country. And of course, we are in a Republican channel, Camdis Television. Before we come back, can we have the press review with the collaboration of Serge Mbida and of course Ledu? The press review.
Greetings, televiewers. We are on the press review rubric. We begin this evening with Cameroon Tribune, which says disarmament, demobilization, reintegration of 183 new repentants in Mary between the month of June and July 2021. We go right away to the Median, which tells us that anti-Bia displays abroad. Swiss police fire tear gas at Cameroonian protesters. In the process, 12 arrested and charges as others are taken to hospital for injuries. Leader Press says the government supports Yannick Edouard Mekongo, the young computer engineer who created the PKB robot. In Integration, CEMAC Head of State Conference, economic relaunch as a priority. See page 5 of the newspaper. The Horizon says, remembering Fumban Conference 60 years after misconceptions and half-truth in the same newspaper. COVID-19 Buddha prison. Registrar applauded as 26 staff, 138 inmates vaccinated. Also, La Cloche Hebdo tells us that 5 years after the Douala Autonomous Port, how Cyrus Ngor metamorphosed. The Guardian Post, as killing of soldiers on the rise in the northwest and southwest region, prominent Francophone MP urges government to rethink military option. You will have this and more in the newspaper. In L'Économie Quotidienne, the Serge Republic wants to invest in the exploitation of iron ore in Cameroon. Lo Calara tells us that Congelcam bus forcefully built on the family's land. In Le Quotidien, the presidential couple is disturbed in Geneva. Upper Sanaga is tightly on the line with Paul Biya. La Cible Hebdo, Anglophone crisis, silence. We are dying, says uniformed men in English-speaking zones. In Défi Actuel, Public Finance 2021 budget, more than 2,232 billion already spent, and 2035 Vision CNDS 30, the first things which has been acquired. More so, we are told in Albatros that Luc Magloire BrigadeAntiSardinard pleads for the adjustment of prices, weight, and measures. Lopoli, Nextel wants to pull MTM, Orange, and Camtel in its fall, and the MRC goes back to streets this week. In L'Anecdote, the stakes of the Yaoundé Summit, CEMAC, an investigation and revelation. Eco-Finance Hebdo says external trade, CDC begins the high exportation of banana. Quotidien Eco Santé says mental health, danger coming from social media, and the health boss insists in the rendering of the hospital center in Gaoundéré by November 2021. In Quotidien Réalité, we see that the Director General of Taxes has collected 1,000 billion francs CFA in only 6 months. Isn't it impossible? In Le Jour, we are told of a special criminal court at Tanganakuna's case. Where are we? We see in Mutation that COVID-19, war in the northwest and southwest region, debt weight of mass salary. Quotidien Eco News says world fiscal reform, beneficiaries of multinational will soon be taxed 15% in Cameroon. In Le Messager, Nouran Fortsin case in the National Assembly divide. Cameroon Insider says Gabon Cameroon launch optic fiber interconnection facility. The new hub will facilitate digital transactions and the regional integration drive. In the Herald Tribune, harassment of opposition MP, nationwide clamor for severe sanction on overzealous policeman. And lastly, the info says Bile Tapea Solomon on mission to revamp Pamol. It is on this that we cut the T's and dot the I's for this week's press review. Bye.
Thank you for cutting the T's and for dotting the I's. Ruth Fonyon with that press review of the week. I will begin with you, the Secretary General of the CRM party. The newspapers, you just follow them. Any remark?
Yeah, I think only one paper caught my attention when they mentioned the issue in the Northwest and Southwest. Shut up, you are dying, which carries out a kind of anger from what the populations are living in those regions of our country. And I think the government is not doing enough to bring a peaceful solution to that crisis. We have always, time again, called upon the government to put in place a sincere national dialogue with all parties involved so that we can have a long-lasting and peaceful solution to the crisis. We are not happy that our brothers and sisters are dying in numbers every day because of that war. Even in terms of economy, it has caused a lot of distress. We know that the CDT, that used to be a large company in our country, employing more than 15,000 people, is actually in shambles. That creates serious economic problems to people living in those regions, and it hurts our national economy.
It hurts our national economy. You equally followed the press review, Ponanji Silvanos. What do you have to say?
What catches my attention is the Anglophone crisis. For several years, we are talking about the Anglophone crisis. It is a sing-song that we are always singing, and then we ask the question, till when shall we keep singing this song? More to that, the economy of Cameroon. A question is asked, is it true that the director of taxation can collect a huge sum of money in less than 6 months? That is seen to be a rhetorical question. How true and how not true can that be? Because looking at the COVID-19, the way it has crumbled our economy, looking at the effects of the Anglophone crisis, and then looking at the impact on business, I also doubt if this can be true, or they want to tell the whole world and us that Cameroon is doing funky, Cameroon is doing well, everything is okay.
But is Cameroon not doing well? You are beautifully dressed. Are you not feeling fine, you as a Cameroonian?
Yes, somebody who is beautifully dressed may be physically looking handsome or beautiful, but what matters about the person should be the inside. Is the person breathing well? Because you may be beautifully dressed in your coffin. That is the matter.
Okay, Gina, you equally follow the press review of Ruth Fonyon. Any remarks?
Yeah, like the first two speakers have just mentioned, the truth is that the Anglophone crisis was my point of focus there as far as the press review was concerned. And I would like to point out here that we got from it that an MP calls on government to rethink its strategy. This tells us and tells the same government we have been talking to for the past 5 years now that maybe since the MP is from within their own system, maybe for once they will have to start listening to such an MP, and we pray that many more of these MPs therefore will join him to call on government really to rethink its strategies, because we have been saying it time without number that what the government has been doing so far is far from being enough to be able to resolve the crisis in the country. And of course, we also got something there about the Fumban conference 60 years after. I think what I can say with respect to this is that it simply calls on our regime, again, the regime in place, to know that we have to go back to the drawing table to revisit our history and know exactly what went wrong in this country, and we try to see how we can correct the errors from there, because something certainly went wrong somewhere, but unfortunately the regime in place has not been honest enough to want to accept that something went wrong, and there is no way we can be a republic like Cameroon, and we think that we can forge on based on lies telling, or that we can maybe manipulate our own history and want to pretend that life can move on smoothly with that. Soldiers are beginning to lament in the northwest and southwest. The government, again, at that point, should understand that something is wrong, because they have been depending so much on the military option. But if the uniform officers 5 years after are beginning to lament themselves that things are not moving on their own part, then government should understand, therefore, that there is a need for us as Cameroonians to sit down around the table and talk as brothers and talk with one as a people, so as to be able to come out with tangible solutions that can permit us forge on as a nation.
Of course, the Republic is watching, and without any waste of time, we shall tackle our first topic of the day. We are talking hate speech, because we have seen that there is this promotion of hate speech. Some people are saying that, toi tu es Bamileke, others are saying that, toi tu es Anglophone, others are saying that, there is this, there is A, there is B, but there is this hate speech. Who or what is responsible for this hate speech? With the collaboration of Ledo and Serge Vida, can we have our first topic on the screen? Hate speech. Mr. Secretary General of the Deputy Secretary General of the CRM party, who is responsible, or what is responsible for the hate speech that we have been witnessing for the past months?
Yeah, I think to get to that point, we need first of all to define exactly what is hate speech, because on the legal basis, on a legal standpoint, hate speech is just any form, expression that is offensive on the basis of tribe, religion, race. Actually, in Cameroon, whether it be on the social media or on traditional media, we are seeing a lot of hate speech going up between Cameroonians, and it is becoming very violent, so that it's a very serious concern for our country. And it has not started today, because you remember that I think in 2019, it has become so important that the government has enacted a new law in December 2019, law number 20, which modified the penal code of 2016 on those aspects of contempt of religion, contempt of race, or tribalism. I want to say that we of the CRM party, we think that tribalism, or whatever you call it, hate speech, always comes up when the regime is in trouble. When we look back in history, in 1990, we have the same situation. Actually, it was the same. They were talking of Anglo-Bamileke, because...
You are talking of 1990?
Yeah, exactly. They were talking of Anglo-Bamileke because of the rise of DSDF, of Chairman Frundi. Exactly. Yeah. And at that time, as all of us know, the regime was in very serious trouble, like today. And I want to tell you that his speech, which is found in the media, has started at the second phase, has started back in 2017. That is 1 year prior to the presidential elections.
In 2018.
And it became more and more insidious during and after the presidential elections. I want to tell you one situation that I was myself part of it. It was in Monateri.
In the
Leke division, exactly. I went there to place posters on everywhere, as you know, on the campaign. And then a group of people came up to me. I was with Mr. Okala, who is a member of the director of the party. Told me, okay, you Bamileke guys, you cannot place your poster here, because here is only for Paul Biya. And I replied in the native tongue that actually I'm going to do it, and if you don't want me to do it, then you're going to paste up, you're not going to paste your own posters of your candidate, because we are citizens of the same country and we have the same rights. And I said, and it is only when I spoke our native language that the guy said he went back and said, okay, maybe it's one of our brothers. Yeah. You see, we don't have to be in such situations, because after all, we are all of us are Cameroonians, and we are Cameroonians wherever we are in the nation. There is no particular place for any type of Cameroonian. I think 3 weeks ago, I was in a meeting in Ebolova. That meeting was called by the DO, the DO of the Villa division. And in that meeting, you had the DO, you have the SD of Ebolova 1, Ebolova 2, you have the mayor of Ebolova 1, Ebolova 2, and then we have the mayor of Ebolova. And the meeting was called only for the secretary, we call it divisional secretary of our party in the villa. No other party was invited. It was only the CRM. And that's why we decided to go there and attend that meeting and see what exactly what will happen, because most of the time they call upon such meeting and then they try to treat our officials there.
No, we are not talking public manifestation.
Yeah, it's not a public manifestation.
Hate speech, eh?
Let me continue. After that, the question coming from those officials, I couldn't believe such questions. All the questions were hate speech. Why now? Why are you doing it? Only you guys come from elsewhere, only doing it in Ebolova. Guys, the people of Ebolova will not welcome you. That's the words that I heard coming from officials of the government in Ebolova. What do you call it if not hate speech? And I think the big problem that we have in this country is that we don't abide by the law in this country. Because if that was the case, those officials should have been punished. Because the law I just mentioned.
So you're saying that officials are promoting...
Exactly. Not all officials. It's actually a national policy of the CPDM. Yes, that's it. I tell a national policy, exactly. Whenever their regime is in trouble, they then promote hate speech in order to curb their opponents. Are you saying that hate speech is a CPDM making? That's exactly what I'm saying. Or do you want me to say it in Chinese? I don't think in Chinese.
because at least the CPDM is the party in power. Do you think that they are really out to promote hate speech, especially when we know that we shall be coming to that? The time for us to have the view of Ponanji Silvanos. Silvanos, we are talking hate speech today. Who is responsible? Who or what is responsible for that? Because we have been seeing in the past days how many Cameroonians are talking about hate speech.
Hate speech should be as old as humanity, because even within our families, we hear people insulting others and giving attributes to others. Within the family, perhaps you know that this is a legitimate son and this is not a legitimate son. And you notice that it has been happening. Now, when it comes to a community, a country, that is not what should be promoted, though it is taking place. And now, who is responsible for this? You discover that the first person, the first institution to take care of any decision or any activity in a nation is the government. Therefore, the government has to put in place...
Who is the government?
The government...
Because we know the basic definition of the government.
Yes.
The government is what? The definition they say is... the
government is the people. The government is the people represented by their officials. Now, when I talk of the government, it means those are the people. Those are the officials. Those are the officials that are representing the government. Those are the officials that are representing the government that are more or less promoting the hate speech. If I can recall back around the 2016, when they used to talk of terrorists, They used to talk of secessionists. They used to lavish all type of words to people who may be applying for something. Then I would say the government officials, that is why I say the government has promoted hate speech in one way or another. More to that, when that happens, and then the people cry, we are expecting that the father will call the people and say, no, this is not what is, this is what we should do. Therefore, sit down, and then they question that government official.
But we know that but we know that the CPDM officials have been coming out to say no to this hate speech.
CPDM.
Let's make a distinction between
CPDM officials.
Let's make a distinction between the government and CPDM. I am talking about the government here. I'm not talking about the CPDM party. I am talking about the government. Ministers have spoken on media. They have said things that are unfounded.
Like what? Like what?
There was a case of Ngabu incident.
The Ngabu incident, yeah.
Yes, which was attributed to people, but when the analysis were made, it was wrong. And more to that, even non-governmental organizations that came for investigation were threatened.
But that is not his
and
speech.
they were called names.
That is not his speech.
They were called names. So more on that, it plays on the psychology of the people. And when you hear people talking on, maybe I want to hurt that person. If the person cries out and there's no answer to a solution to the person's cry, the person will only look for a way now to also hurt another person, at least to feel a bit happy or a bit balanced. So I think the government, which is the society regulator, had to be regulating hate speech, but they are more or less promoting it.
We should not forget that there is a commission that has been formed.
Yes,
we call it the Musonges Commission.
Yeah,
why they have been fighting against?
Why a commission?
It showed that they were not.
How old is Cameroon? How old is Cameroon today? And why is a commission formed only today? Is it today that Cameroon came in place? Why today? Because they are forming the commission as a solution to a problem that has been caused. Why wait till that problem caused? Nevertheless, what solutions are they bringing in place? I went through the social media the other day, and I saw a public notice that the Procureur General of the Supreme Court, something in Bamenda, is asking for the recruitment, has launched the recruitment of people. And below the root Procureur General, I asked my question, what is the meaning of Procureur General in English? That alone, don't you know, can hurt people enough? I am saying that hate speech is being promoted by government officials because even when they want to apply the law, when it concerns them, the law is unapplicable. But when it concerns others, the law becomes applicable and even more and even violated on the people. But what can we do to solve this problem of hate speech?
That is a question that we are asking all of us.
I think we are a republic. It doesn't matter how long you have been failing, that you should think you keep on failing. The government should come back. The government should organize conferences with the people. The government should monitor their spokespersons. The government should call into order those that go against the rules so that hate speech can be controlled. Cameroon can once more enjoy the peace that used to reign in the nation.
Okay, Jide, we have been talking hate speech. Who is promoting this? Or who is responsible for this? Is the society not responsible? When I talk of the society, I'm talking of you and I. Who are those responsible for hate speech? Jimmy.
That's a very pertinent question. And I will begin answering by saying that the responsibilities can be shared. And of course, the greater responsibility is shouldered by the regime in place. Because you know, they say charity begins at home. If you say you want to fight hate speech in Cameroon today, then I would rather call on the regime in place to begin with its own officials. Because the officials in this country are championing hate speech in the country. Of course, we know of them, ministers, directors, and who have official Facebook accounts, for instance, that when you visit, you see what they write there. They don't hide it. People sit on media, they are spokespeople, and you hear what they say, they don't hide it. You see, we know of people in the country who call some persons from other parts of the country rats. We know of governors who call people from other parts of the country dogs. Now, when a governor calls people from the northwest, southwest dogs, for instance, and no sanctions were ever meted against him, what do you expect? You think that the people you have called dogs, they will hear such insults and they take it so lightly because you are a governor or whatever thing. No. So what I would say is responsibilities are shared, but government should understand, like I always like to say that in French, they say tout poisson pourri par la tête. It begins from up there with the officials, and until they begin to met out sanctions against their own very members who are with them and are the ones promoting, then I'm afraid we may take a long way to get out of this. Now, coming back to society as a whole, what I would say here is that man, first and foremost, is an issue of love. You see, but it is rather unfortunate that we have come to a point in time in society where people prefer rather to learn how to hate than to practice that which is naturally in them, which is love. It's rather unfortunate. And this simply comes as a consequence of the fact that we are all, first of all, humans. And it becomes very, very difficult at times for man. It is not impossible anyway, but it becomes difficult for man to resist when you see somewhere in a country where you feel that you belong to that country, and if you hear someone use certain words against you and give you that impression that you are not welcome.
But
you know that the law says,
are you not feeling that belonging, Eugene, in person?
You know, your very first question to my brother to my left here was about his dressing. And he says he answered technically by saying someone may look outwardly well dressed, but in theory he's not quite comfortable. You see, it is very, very difficult for some of us to say we feel totally comfortable in this country where we are. Because when you go back even into ministries of recent as last week, I have a direct cousin of mine, for instance, who went to establish an ID card of his that got expired. But they could not do it just by virtue of the fact that he spoke in English. And it was already made known to him. It is where
was that? Where was that?
Of course, I'm talking here in Yaoundé. I'm not going too far about it. It is not like how do I put it? It was made known to him clean and clear that because of the language he spoke. Are we together? We know of ministries in Yaoundé. I for one have been a victim. The person did not even talk about not comprehending l'anglais. I say it was made known to him clearly. I for one have been a victim at the Ministry of Culture, where you go somewhere and then by the time you introduce yourself to someone in English, that's where the lady simply told me, on the parle l'anglais ici. I mean to me, at the Ministry of Culture. So what I'm saying here is this. Those are the type of things that frustrate some Cameroonians and makes them feel that they do not belong. You see, the law makes us understand that as citizens, we have the right...
But we all belong, eh?
That's what I'm saying. The law makes us believe that as citizens, we have the right to settle anywhere in the country. You see? And like my colleague of the CRM was saying, it is rather unfortunate that the hate speech in our country is not promoted from the base. You see? The people in the base, the common man, has rather become some sort of a victim of what comes from above. Because at every now and then, we have the impression that it is our officials, they are the people who are supposed to represent us, they are the people who are supposed to set examples for the common man to follow, who rather turn out to be the ones promoting this hate speech. And I say it's rather unfortunate. You mentioned something of the Musonga Commission. It's rather unfortunate It's unfortunate because that commission in the first place, we know how it came about. It was not even created to fight hate speech. Now it seems to want to orientate its actions towards fighting hate speech. But ever since they started talking about hate speech, a law has been put in place and all that. Have you seen any sanctions?
Do you think this commission
I don't think so.
Do you think this commission cannot succeed?
Well, in our Cameroonian country, with respect to the regime in place, it may still be another failure. Because up till now, we've not seen anybody being sanctioned. I have said, we know even of journalists who sat on media and called people rats, and they said they should go there and deratize certain regions. But till today, we've not, like I said, the commission has never done anything.
You are talking of sanctions, so you want people to be sanctioned for...
Mr. Tabi,
you are talking of sanctions.
We have gotten to a point where Cameroonians, at least examples should be set on some people, for others to learn a lesson. The general norm will expect that we should learn to talk to one another as brothers and sisters. Like my brother was saying, the state, the regime should think of possibilities where we can dialogue as people, we can sensitize people, be it through schools, through churches and other possible gatherings, even through the same social media. But I'm saying that it has gotten to a point where maybe Cameroonians as a whole need to see some persons sanctioned first. You see, and I want to think it should begin with officials, because most of our officials, or let me say some of them, are good at promoting hate speech. And I cited to you an example of a governor who permits himself to call citizens dogs.
Okay, we have heard you, Gina Bane Elvis. It's true that after the presidential election in 2018, Professor Maurice Kamto at the Constitutional Council, he made a statement saying that maybe, I don't know the exact date, that I was born on the 15th, maybe on February 1954 in Bafoussa. Is that also not a sign that Why was he making that speech?
Because of what he went through during the presidential elections and even before, during the campaigning. He was very violent. He was very violent against supporters of the candidate Kamto at that time. The hate speech was exacerbated by those people they call intellectuals, those people who are said to have diplomas and who normally have to think in a certain way. They always reacted on the basis of tribes. Then for most of those guys supporting the CPDM at that time, it means that when any supporter of CRM was coming from the west region of the country, which was not true. I am one of the officials of the party. I'm not coming from the west region of the country, as you know. So it was an expression of hunger, nothing more than that. It was not hate speech per se. It was just an expression of hunger.
They said that I'm coming from Bafoussam.
Yeah, exactly. I'm coming from Bafoussam.
I was born in Bafoussam.
If I was coming from Ebolova, Sangmelima, any places of Bulus, maybe I should have been treated a different way. That's exactly what they wanted to say. That's why I said, if there was any competitive examination to become a Bulu, maybe I should have seated, I should have been part of it to at least feel like I'm not a Bamileke as you make me feel now, which for you means that since I'm a Bamileke, I'm no more a Cameroonian, which is not true. Maybe I want to give you an example. When I think it was in 2019 or 2020, something like that, when we wanted to go to a Bolova for a public demonstration, that was
it authorized?
Legally declared.
Well, okay, was it authorized?
That's not the issue. We could not. We could not even reach. For your information, that one was declared, and it's not a matter of authorization. We're going to talk to discuss that issue now.
Yeah.
But we properly filed the declaration, and we got the receipt as expected by in the law, and we were stopped around 25 miles to Ebolova, and you could not hear the insults coming out of those people. We could not believe that all of us were Cameroonians. It was as if the guys coming from Yaoundé, the other places in the buses, they were foreigners going into a certain part of the country, whereas all of us are Cameroonians. And so I think it is not good for the CPDM to use hate speech in order to maintain themselves on power.
We are talking of CRM.
I'm talking of the CPDM.
I'm talking of CRM, the president who came out to say, I am from Bafoussam.
I already explained that. Don't bring me back to that. What I'm telling you now is the CPDM officials. They have to understand that all of us are Cameroonians.
Sons and daughters of the same republic.
It is our land. And that every Cameroonian, by law, can stand as candidate to any official position in this country. No matter where they come from, no matter where he lives. They have to understand that. And you want to, let me put it for what they are duplicity. You know, as one of the co-panelists said, there is a law, the law number 20 of December 2019. As he rightly said, you have never heard of any sanctions against anyone having hate speech in any media. So why have they enacted a law? Why are defaulters not sanctioned? Those are questions, and we should actually question their sincerity in coming up with that law.
Maybe the sanctions are coming.
Which sanction? They can. You mentioned
people are not of the system to sanction them.
yeah, even those people that they don't sanction. You mentioned the Musenge Commission, and I can confirm here that the Musenge Commission has been doing a very good job. They have bought luxury cars for themselves.
Luxury cars for themselves, so they are doing a wonderful job.
Exactly, that's the job they are doing.
Okay, Silvanos, can we say that this hate speech is bringing a problem today, posing a problem today of our living together as a people?
We first of all acknowledge the fact that we come from different angles. We agreed to be together, and we are together because before the coming of the German to annex Cameroon, there were states and kingdoms in Cameroon, and they were living. But they were living in Cameroon, but not together. They were states and kingdoms until the German came and united us, and we had a common name, Cameroon. We should always abide to that fact that we are different people living together, and that we intend to live together. Therefore, when we intend to live together, if you want to drive me away from this, just insult me. By the time I don't feel comfortable, I am leaving. So if we think that we should keep on living together, we should therefore avoid making people uncomfortable, because when you call me a name, I feel uncomfortable. I don't feel belonging. If I don't feel belonging, then I should leave. I am saying that this hate speech is a threat to our living together. And if we think we should keep living together, then we should fight it by all costs. Every law, I am an educationist. I don't master law that much, but I know that every law, once it is quoted, it is said, if somebody goes against this law number, then the sanction is this. Therefore, and there is a law on hate speech. So where are the sanctions? When they wrote the law, did they forget the part of the sanction? When they go to court, do they forget the part of the sanction? If we think that we should keep living together, then we should avoid everything. We should clean the house in a way that will be comfortable for everybody to live in that house.
The house is dirty at this moment.
Of course, the house is dirty,
yeah.
as to contain some people. Remember, a pig, a goat, and a horse are all animals, but not all can live in the same environment. Some can live in mud, while some can live in the desert.
Okay.
But if you want to contain everybody, make the environment conducive.
Gene, hate speech, is it posing a problem of living together?
It is no longer a question to ask if it is posing. The problem is already there. The problem is already existing. The problem is there already. Many Cameroonians don't quite feel comfortable again within the country as a consequence of that existence of hate speech already. But I want to think the most important thing here is for us to start finding out possible measures as to which or as to how we can step out of this. You know, if we take the case of the crisis ongoing in the northwest and the southwest, you will notice that at one point in time, it will even be difficult, though we keep advocating and calling for dialogue, but it will be difficult to sit down and dialogue because of what? Hate speech. When you sit down, for instance, and you think that you can dialogue with someone, but now you don't see in that person a brother. You don't see in that person someone with whom you can talk. You first of all see in him a terrorist. You first of all see in him maybe an Anglophone. You first of all see in him this. It becomes a problem. But if we first of all understand that we are one, then the truth is that it's like when you are within the same family, you can have a misunderstanding with an immediate brother of yours, but there is a need for you guys to talk as brothers of the same family. But if you start tagging people names by virtue of their origin, their regions of origin, by virtue of maybe their racial backgrounds or social background, it becomes a very hell of a problem. And that is the problem we are already facing in this country. So to this, I just simply want to say, like I said from the beginning already, man is born out of love. And so Cameroonians, we should understand as a people that there is a need for us to see how we can rather develop this love in us, you see, and grow with it. Learn how to talk and dialogue amongst ourselves rather than spend time on social media and other platforms on developing on how to hate people. But that's what Cameroonians are rather doing now. We spend more time practicing how to hate rather than practicing that which is naturally in us, which is the love in itself. And so I want to think, you know, Mr. Tabi, you cannot kill hate speech by hate speech. That's one thing.
Yeah,
I am now like already proposing my own solutions.
Yeah.
You cannot kill hate speech by hate speech. In other words, it is not because maybe my brother of the CRM insults me that I will insult him back as a way of solving the problem. What I'm saying
Say
is...
your brother of CPDM, not of some
Thank you, Mr. Noah. Anyway, it is not because a brother of mine in the country insults me that I should want to forcefully replicate in the same line. So I'm calling on Cameroonians to understand that even if someone were to use a certain offensive language against you, at least we should try to master our temperament and not respond in the same way.
The Musonges Commission, how do you look at it?
Well, the Musonges
Can
Commission...
the Musonges Commission solve the problem?
Mr. Tabi, I still want to tell you as a Cameroonian that I have my doubts as far as the commission is concerned. Because first, it is a commission created by this regime. And we know that all their commissions, they have never succeeded in anything they were created to do. Not to talk of a commission that was created under basis that no one can account for. We know that it was created as a consequence of the ongoing crisis in the Northwest, Southwest. But the question is, when it was created, was it even appropriate under the sound stance on which it was created to solve the problem in the Northwest, Southwest? No. Noticing that they have failed in that domain.
I don't really understand you. It was good because the commission was created to buy cars to certain people. And they have done it, so they have to do the job for which they were created.
To buy cars.
So to buy luxury cars, not cars, but luxury cars.
So what I'm saying is this: noticing that they have failed in that domain, therefore they cannot solve the crisis that is plaguing the country in that part of the country. They are now trying to divert into maybe hate speech just to make themselves relevant. But like we have just been saying here, they have voted laws. Laws have been voted against hate speech. But no sanctions so far have come on. But we know people every day on social media, and I mean officials who continue promoting the same hate speech. But the commission is there.
Gene, can we not say one of the reasons of the Anglophone problem today is hate speech?
But that is just
one of the reasons. So
that is just what I started by saying.
The commission is out to combat this.
That is just what I started by saying, that hate speech is one of the problems. When I mentioned that it would be difficult for you to dialogue with a brother you first of all see first as a terrorist or tag him other names. You see, I should see you first as Tabi a brother, and then we can sit and discuss. But if I look at you each time I see the head of a terrorist, it becomes a problem. It becomes difficult for us to sit down and talk. And that's why I say first, we Cameroonians can devise other strategies of sitting down to talk to solve their problems, but we should not dwell and depend on the Musonges Commission, because I do not see succeeding in that domain, because they failed already in the domain in which they were created for. They simply diverted themselves to make themselves relevant. To me, they have failed already, except that with time, they will be able to listen to the cause of genuine Cameroonians and see what to do. Secondly, we have legislators in this country. A law was already voted. It has not yet been applied, but we see people. I keep saying on officials. I don't know. Maybe the legislators should go back to the drawing board again and then perhaps re-strategize to see into it. Like I earlier mentioned, let at least some few persons be sanctioned already and made public, so that other Cameroonians see and actually believe that that law has been put in place and that it now works, so that others can now start retracting from using such offensive words.
Sanctions. We are ending on this first topic, and each speaker will have a minute to conclude on this first topic. What are you proposing? You of the CRM, you as a person, you as a deputy scribe of the Cameroon Renaissance movement.
You know,
in 1 minute, please.
We already have a law in place that fights against hate speech. Now, I think the best thing we can do is to apply that law. And one of the things that can lead us into executing that law is in putting in place a kind of media monitoring office in the Ministry of Justice. That office will monitor the social media and the traditional media programs, things like that, to bring out people using hate speech in their communication, and then bring them to book. Because I believe that, as my brother rightly said, if one or two people are really sanctioned, they're going to be an example to others, and then it's going to stop others from keeping that hate speech mentality. If we don't do that, you can believe me, no change will happen, and that hate speech could become a very serious cankerworm in our nation. It can even destroy the unity of this nation. And I think that the Anglophone crisis can be construed as a kind of consequence of the hate speech in the public debates and even in governments. Like I told you, the CPDM regime is the most responsible for what is happening. And
Then,
I think...
Are you not blaming the society equally?
I said they're the most responsible. That means that at least society is concerned somewhere. But since they are the one governing, ruling us, they are the one that should take the necessary actions.
You are the CRM, what are you doing to better the situation?
Just some weeks ago, our national president issued a very important communication.
Professor Maurice
Kamto regarding that issue of hate speech. He clearly stated what is our position as a party on that issue. And we have told our members to stop any kind of violence during discussions, especially on social media. We think that they have to understand wherever they are and whenever that we as a people should be united. And hate speech is the only role of hate speech is to divide us, to create distance between Cameroonians, whereas we have to be united in order to build our nation.
Silvanus, your last word on this first topic?
My last word on this first topic is that we should revisit and always know that we are coming from somewhere and we have somewhere we are going to. If you don't know where you are coming from, probably you don't know where you are going to. Insofar as we want to use the stick policy of punishment, we should also try the carrot policy, meaning the government can also encourage those that can promote lovely speeches, and they will also create awareness. There are some people who don't even know this notion of hate speech. Because of that, they speak without knowing. If you go to primary schools, you can actually hear the children say "le wajo," "le borolo," "le anglo," which is quite hurting. But they are not even aware of the consequences of what they are doing. So we should let the public, first of all, know what is going on, know the consequences, and because of that, we can, if the government, through the ministries of education and any other ministry, can set prizes for those that are able to have debates, promote love speeches, so that we can forge ahead. Likewise, not still forgetting to use the stick policy, because insofar as you want to cajole people to do something, there will also be recalcitrant ships. You should also be able to sanction them and set an example for others to follow.
Your last word, Gene Bane?
Yeah, my last words would simply be to say, Mr. Tabby Clarkson, that for you to drive away darkness, you need light. And I think Cameroonians must all act as light to be able to drive away hate speech in Cameroon. And how do we act as light as a people? By simply practicing love. We should learn to see in every person that we come across, first and foremost, a brother. We should learn to see in every person that we come across, first and foremost, a Cameroonian. You don't need to look at somebody and try to find out from which region he comes from first. You don't need to look at somebody and try to find out from which political party he belongs to before you understand if you can dialogue with that type of a person or not. We are first and foremost people of a country, and it ends at that level. If we see ourselves all as Cameroonians, then I want to think that we can go far as promoting love in our country and unity is concerned. Secondly, we must be ambassadors to that peace. We must be the ambassadors to promoting the love speeches. And as my brother said, education is an area where we should take very, very serious in this country as far as promoting love is concerned. You know, there are habits that once you inculcate in children, they grow with such habits and it sticks in them. But it's unfortunate, you see, when you come back to our educational systems, for instance, let me take the Anglo-Saxon system of education. The government has even done it in such a way that today people no longer even have interest. Students no longer have interest in studying religious studies. And we know it is a subject through which such love was inculcated into them. You see, and even the citizenship that was also that has been what we used to call civics in those days. When you even look at the content today, you discover that many children today offer it just to pass and have a certificate and it ends at that level, but they do not put into practice what they actually are being taught. Why? Because the examples from above are not the best. But now, if we can reinforce the content of these subjects and let Cameroonians understand that religious studies maybe should become a condition even for people to write even competitive entrance examinations to the country. Why should you study religious studies and the government tells you they need 4 papers or 5 or 6 papers excluding religious studies? It means that they are driving away morals. They want a society where people are morally decadent. And so I think these things should be reinforced to ensure that tomorrow we have a society that we can be proud of as a people. We should no longer find ourselves in a situation where people are killed in a part of the country and an official stands and calls them collateral damages as though he was referring to some material or animals or whatever thing. Such things should be discouraged, and I want to think that the government, the regime, when I say government, I refer to the regime really needs to rethink its policies at the level of education, and like a co-panelist already mentioned, they should go back and monitor social media, monitor traditional media, and see exactly who are those recalcitrant persons who keep insisting on promoting this hate speech, and then we make sure that such persons are brought to book so that others can learn from the example set on them.
We should practice love. We should practice love because we are a people, we are brothers, we are sisters, we are a republic, we are Cameroonians. Be me coming from Tinto Manfe, from the southwest region of Cameroon, be it my friend Noah, coming from the center.
Coming from Bilmana.
From Bilmana. Be it my brother Silvanos coming from Santa. Be it my brother Gine.
From Oku.
From Oku. We are all a people, we are all Cameroonians, and we are all the sons and daughters of this republic. Well, we shall move now on to our second topic. Our second topic, of course, we shall be focusing on what happened in Bafoussam the other day between a honorable member of parliament and a police officer in Bafoussam. With the collaboration of Ledoux and Serge Mbida, if we can have the video of what happened before we come back.
Mon ami, c'est une députée. Faites attention. Merde.
We just saw the video from Bafoussam, what happened on that day. Roger Noah, who is responsible? Who takes the blame there? We have all followed what happened there.
I think we have here policemen and an honorable member of parliament. Yes, there was a roadblock put in place by the governor of the West region. But if I mention what I read from the communique of the president of that party, who said that what happened is a result of an injustice because the member of parliament was coming in her car and then realized that the barrier was lifted to allow another person to go through the same route. So she has to go exactly through the same route and then ask for the block to be lifted. And I think it is not the first injustice. It's not because one of the person involved is a member of parliament. This is a reality in this country. The injustices that citizens face on a daily basis. I think from the video that you just broadcast, 2 policemen went to the car of the member of parliament and threatened her, even lifting fingers at her, which is a serious offense when you consider 2 things. 1, it is a woman, and 2, it is a member of parliament. So for me, whatever she has done... Are you saying
a member of parliament should behave anyhow? Because
it's not what I'm saying.
It's
not what I'm saying.
You should not respect the law?
When you are a policeman, you have to kind of master exactly what you can do and what you can say in any circumstances. Because we've seen other members of the police facing such situation and handling them in a very professional way. I don't think that any evil that the member of parliament should have been done could be a reason for those policemen to be so threatening to such a personality. I'm not sure that things would have gone that the same way if it was, let's say, the SDO coming, which of the executive arm of the government of the power. No, it should not. I'm sure that things will not have happened that way. They should have paid respect, due respect to the SDO. Why can't they pay the same respect to a member of parliament? Because we have to mention that the problem here is institution, not people, not persons. We have institution. We have the executive arm, we have the executive arm, and we have the judiciary arm. Could they have the same behavior if it was, let's say, the state prosecutor? No, they could not. I'm very sure of that. Why will we accept them to have that horrendous behavior when it's a member of parliament? And
so you are blaming the police here?
I'm blaming the police because they failed to handle the issue in a very professional way without hurting the member of parliament.
Is it not a solidarity between the CRM and
she's not a member of CRM. She's a member of another party.
Yes, of a political party.
No, even if it was a member of parliament of the CPDM, I should have said the same thing. Because let me tell you, in our party, it's not about people. It's about principles. It's about values. That's what we defend. We're not defending people, persons. We defend principles.
Are you calling the respect of institutions?
That's another story.
Okay. Silvanos, what is your take on that, Silvanos?
I want to first of all think that before you enter the police corps, you go to what we call preparatory classes, and one of the subjects they teach you is citizenship or civics. And they are teaching you the arms of government. That the government is having 3 arms: the legislative, the judiciary, and the executive. And then they start giving you how the powers flow. That is a course you study maybe in the police school. And then they start teaching you communication skills and so on. This is a member of parliament, Kamer. And because the governor is praying in the mosque, who perhaps should be a Muslim, or should be visiting a mosque like any other person, has ordered the blockage of road. Even with the type of material benches, which I don't think should be what we use. We're using benches and chairs to block the road. And then the member of parliament. Who is this member of parliament? The member of parliament is the representative of the people, voted by the people. Do you know her mission? Maybe she is going to rescue lives somewhere. She is going to investigate about the actions of people somewhere to table to the parliament. That is a member of parliament. She is eligible to be the president of the parliament. Are we saying that we can as well do that to our president to the speaker of the National Assembly, Kavaye, of which that lady is voted as well as Kavaye is also voted. Therefore, they have the same magnitude. I don't think so. That is a representative of the people. Then who is the governor? The governor is the representative of the president. not the people. The president, the governor is there to represent the president.
The executive arm.
Likewise, the executive arm. Likewise, the
Silvanus, are you saying that we should not respect the law?
What I am saying
because we are MP.
What I am saying is that I did not
Blocking
see
the road inside the law.
an MP disrespecting the law in any way. It is but normal that the road can be blocked. Of course, it can be for security reasons. It is but normal for the policeman to come and tell the MP that because of this or that, the roads have been blocked. This can be the alternatives, or there is no other alternative. Rather than coming and threatening a member of parliament, not to talk of the fact that it was a lady, and pushing her. It is really, really, where are we going to? Is it because of power? What if it should be power, then we should at least learn how to define the power. That poses a question to me. What quality of police do we have? What do they teach them in the police school? At least we should, because if it was an ordinary citizen, it could even be an ordinary citizen, maybe a blind person coming and who doesn't know the roads are blocked. Is that how you are going to treat that person? Or maybe an ignorant person who is just simply ignorant. Is that how you are going to treat the person? Not to talk of the representative of the people. In between the three arms of government, which one is the superior? That a member of one arm is being blocked to pass because a representative of a member of one arm is praying. If at that, is it that every Friday they block routes?
No, it was a special day. Eh?
It was. Are we saying that God appears on one day and disappears on other days?
It was a feast of Tabaski.
So I think the police,
the feast of sacrifice, and measures were taken for that.
The police authorities have to take that into consideration and revisit that, else we are going to chaos.
Jine Bane, you equally follow that, the incident in Bafoussam?
Well, it is something which is very, very recurrent in our country, and it's rather very, very unfortunate. What happened between the police officers and the honorable member of parliament. You know, talking about who takes the blame, I may say to some extent the blames could somehow be shared. The MP could shoulder some blame to some limited extent, let me put it that way. Because in the same video, we hear her at one point in time asking if they know who the husband is. At one point in time, to me, it's like she was trying to also bring in some influence, playing on her relations and all one not, to try to maybe intimidate the police officers. And we know it's a very common but sad situation in our country where people always think that they can always hang on their relations to want to intimidate other persons. But now, coming back to the police officers per se, I want to think, being the professionals that this regime has always paraded uniform officers in this country to be, I think it was very, very sad and uncalled for to see the uniform officers act the way they did. Because at one point in time, from the video, I don't know how it started before, but from the video we have all seen, they moved up to her car already threatening, even before she came out of the car. That's the first thing. They went up already threatening even before she descended from her car. So even when I mentioned the fact that she said she was going to call the husband, they were already threatening before she descended from that car, which is already problematic. And it's rather unfortunate too that you know, at one point I may want to even accuse youthfulness, because when I look at the young officers, maybe their youthfulness to also push them into that rash behavior. Unfortunately, the law maybe will not forgive your youthfulness if your ignorance of the law.
Even the MP is equally.
All of them are young, so that's why I'm accusing to some extent youthfulness in all what happened. Because, like my brother of the CRM said, if it were the SDO moving towards that direction, certainly the police officers would not have acted that same way. Now, the same thing applies this other way around. If it were maybe an SDO of a certain age or the governor himself who stood there, he might have handled the situation in a more mature way between him and the MP. But you realize that with the officers, maybe with their youthfulness, they took emotions into the whole thing. And then the worst thing is we hear the type of language that they use. For instance, when she reminded them that she was an MP, someone answers, Deputy Mekuyo, whatever thing, whatever thing he that is not the type of language we should expect to get from a police officer. We know the police, the police has been projected to us as being our friends. But unfortunately, it's not the case in Cameroon. And then when you see her go towards an MP and then a woman to that matter and then pushes her away with his hand.
But we cannot
imagine that it were a gentleman whom he had pushed that way. We don't know what might have happened next because the gentleman might not take it lightly. He might have succeeded and gone free at that moment because it was a lady. But imagine that it was maybe an MP or even just an ordinary citizen, but who was a man too like himself. He might have gone back home there losing some of his tooth. You see, and it might have generated to something else. So we are saying that the police actually, based on what we saw there, they are actually, to me, they are they share a greater portion of the blame. And I think it calls to question maybe the type of training that they get back when they go to school. There is something they call in French, is it l'enquête de moralité, before you go into such schools. I even wonder if some of these people are actually being investigated upon to know their moral status and all that before they go into police schools. Because most often than not, when we see them in our streets, it is like when they get into such schools and they put on the uniform, they now become they go above the law, and they can do things the way it's so pleasing. And Mr. Tabi, just before you cut in, please, I want to say, to some extent, I even think it is even good that such a thing had happened directly in the presence of an MP, and that she's even a victim. Are we together? So that she will understand to some extent what the common man goes through on a daily basis in the hands of these people, and then maybe at the end of the National Assembly, they will be able to pose the right questions to them and take the right decisions to be able to bring to such some order in that domain.
We have heard you. We are not doing a balance sheet of the police here. It's not a balance sheet. They are not in a tribunal, the police. But I want to ask this question to Roger Noir. Roger Noir, can we be proud of our police today, beside the incident that occurred in Bafoussam?
Frankly, that's a very difficult question, and I don't really know if I'm going to be able to answer it. I think you failed me on that question. It's not easy. Not easy. Because we have a lot of concerns with our police. When you go to the police and that you having, let's say, a problem in your house, they're going to ask you to pay for their transport. They ask you for fuel money, things like that. And that makes me very embarrassed to say something, to give me any particular mark, because for me, they are not always doing their job. They are not always doing their job at the way they should be. You know, the police has a budget, and that budget finances their operations. Why is it that when we need them on the field, they ask for money, they ask for fuel money, they ask for support? No. The corruption, which is part of the police and even the gendarmes, is unacceptable, because by doing that way, they put in danger the lives of Cameroonians. Just imagine that you are facing an assault in your house, and then the police is asking you to pay fuel money for them to come and help you. It's a very big problem. That's why I'm really feel very embarrassed to plainly answer your question.
Well, you are embarrassed, but we know that we are having a Republican police, Silvanus.
Yes, the police, that name police corps, is a Republican police. But what matters now is the actions that are carried out by the individual police officers in that Republican police. It is true that all of us may be in this house for the same vision, but when I go on mission, I act contrary to our vision. So perhaps Cameroon police has a vision, a good vision, but the missions I don't think are the best. When you are faced with a situation, maybe an harassment, now like this, and you call the police, maybe quoi? 11 or something like that.
Yeah, 17.
You cannot have them even in the next 2 hours.
No.
Even in the next 2 hours, you cannot have them.
But if you rush, there is a way. Just call them that the CRM is organizing a rally.
No, please. Let's not be distracted. Let's not have ourselves distracted. Even if they are the nearest Carrefour, even if they are at the nearest junction, and you go to call them that, there's an incident there. They keep turning around. Maybe that was a thief. The man would disappear, escape before they carry their big shoes and begin to call. And I say so because it is you feel bad That this is somebody I rely on. Imagine your child relies on you for school fee, and then he goes to school and they drive him. Would that child actually ever love to talk about you? Secondly, corruption. It is true that we have spoken about this time without number. It is the interest of the police that somebody should not have an ID card. It is very good. It's something they are happy to hear about.
So
or the recent ID cards that we make them and they stay for a very long while before the originals are released. Even if they meet you with a receipt, which is showing that you have made an ID. But so all that alone is problematic as well. Then professionalism. We are in a bilingual country. In a bilingual country, we have two languages, English and French. I want to ask you if you've ever received a convocation written in English. A convocation. Most of the convocations, if not all that I've seen with my own eyes, are written
in English and French.
English and French now.
English and French.
No, they are not in English and French.
So that is one thing I want to say. And even when you appear, even those that are Anglophones that have entered the police corps, they behave not to even be understanding the English. That is one thing too. And then they are the people we have to rely on. How can you even rely on someone you cannot even communicate with? It becomes a question.
Okay.
So it's a call for concern.
A call for concern, Gine. The police. Can we be proud of our police?
Well, I would simply say here that there are some few persons you can handpick, maybe that do their job well within the corps. But now, when you talk about the police in Cameroon and in general, I want to think that it's not a corps we can be that proud of, because my brothers on the panel have said it all. Most often than not, their actions, their way of doing things does not really reflect what we expect of them. He just said something pertinent. I remember I once witnessed a situation in town here where I personally called for the police to intervene, and they were rather directing me on phone to the next gendarmerie station, telling me this place is closer to where you are, so you rush there and get them informed. I don't think that is what maybe was supposed to obtain in such a situation. Now, secondly, like my brother too mentioned here, we have the impression in Cameroon that the language of operation of uniformed officers in general in the country is French, such that whenever you even meet them, the moment you express yourself to them in the other language, in English, it becomes more of a problem. It's like you are provoking a situation. But like we earlier mentioned, we are talking about the police here. They are people who are supposed to be friendly. Secondly, in their training, they are supposed to take into consideration the fact that the country is bilingual, and at any given point in time, you can be faced with somebody who speaks the other language you don't understand. Even if you don't understand what he says, there should be a polite way of telling him, I don't understand English. Can you try to? Because as for me, for instance, I may speak in French. You see, but it depends the manner in which you take to let me understand that you do not understand the English I am speaking. So there is so much lack of professionalism in the way we see the uniform officers or the police officers do their work, and at the end of the day, it gives room for us to rather lament the whole situation rather than want to be proud of them. But it doesn't cancel the fact, however, like I've said, that you may have a few persons that you may identify within the corps who actually are conscious of what they are supposed to do and who actually do
We shall conclude on this with Roger Noir. In 30 seconds, the advice that you are giving to what happened in Bafoussam. What happened in Bafoussam?
I think
between the honorable and the police.
What I'm expecting now is that the police men involved should be sanctioned, and that should be made known, because they're going to serve an example to others that they don't offense a member of the legislative arm of the government that way.
That they should sanction the police as to what concerns the incident in Bafoussam. That is a take of the CRM party. I'll put it that way.
No, it's not the take of the CRM party. It's the take of Noah Roger, different.
Okay, that is a take of Noah Justin Roger. Well, we shall now move on to our third topic. We have something like 8 minutes before we conclude the program today. Our third topic, we are talking public manifestations in Cameroon. What does the law say? I begin with you, Silvanos. We have seen on several occasions public manifestations agreed, later on disagreed. People are actually being threatened and so on and so forth. Public manifestations in Cameroon today It's a real problem, a real call for concern.
It is but normal administrative-wise that when you have a grievance, you table before the authorities. And when that your demand has not been issued, you can express it publicly. And you can do that by asking for permission to do so. The reason why you're asking for permission is for awareness and protection, security too. So that by the time you are manifesting for what you are manifesting for, you should be monitored that you should be manifesting for that and that alone. There shouldn't be a hidden agenda. And secondly, that in the course of manifestation, you shouldn't be hurt. Because by the time you are manifesting, for sure, you are hurting 1 or 2 persons. But in our country, you discover that most of the time, people go in for public manifestation, if authorized. When they reach the midpoint, they come out with plan B, which may be destruction. That was not what was applied for. And it's a saying that once bitten, twice shy. Or once you are bitten by a snake, be very careful when you see something that looks like a snake. It is but true that the government of Cameroon will be skeptical to authorize public manifestation, mindful of the outcomes of many manifestations, and mindful too of the outcomes of the interaction of the people with the military officials that lead to outcomes that we don't appreciate much. They have to question public manifestations so much, and then they also have to give a sort of coordination. They coordinate it so that it should follow exactly what the government wants. Now, there's what we call the sanctity of the highest good. There can be 2 bad things to do, but amongst the 2 bad things, you choose one of the bad things because it's having a less impact. In between refusing a public manifestation and hurting 1 or 2 persons, or accepting a public manifestation, pleasing 1 or 2 persons, and then looking at the consequence that will come back on the same nation or on the entire nation, what do we choose? I think we are in Cameroon. We are in the present 21st century that we are facing what we are facing. I think, to me, it will not be a taboo at times for the government to say this particular public manifestation should hold on if it is for territorial integrity.
Okay, we have heard you. Yes, Ejide.
Mr. Tabi, I would rather say, public manifestations are legally enshrined in our constitution, as provided for by, I think, law number, is it 90/055 of 1990. You see, it is a right for every Cameroonian to demonstrate on whatever topic. Now, it says that you have to declare, you see. But what I would rather say that is unfortunate about our country is that this regime never authorizes any public manifestation for as long as it is not from their own party, the CPD.
Yeah, correct.
Let us be factual about that one. Just as of now, as we are talking about the CRM, who asked to manifest, that was I think the 25th.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Which they have banned already, trying to evoke concerns of insecurity and COVID-19. But we saw people in the south and in the north who went out and manifested to the favor of the regime in place. I don't know if COVID-19 doesn't exist in those areas where they manifested, or there is no insecurity in those areas. What I'm saying here is this: we are faced with a regime where they put in place laws, but they are the first to always violate the laws when it goes to their own favor. They violate them. But when it comes to other persons, they can always do all what it takes to make sure that nothing works. Now, to disagree here with what my brother just said, that's a matter of national integrity and all. On the contrary, I think that by constantly banning, by systematically banning all other demonstrations that do not have to do with the regime in place, they are rather frustrating the people the more. And it may eventually come to a time when people may be pushed out of their guns and they may not want to respect.
You are advising that they should allow public manifestation.
They should allow people manifest themselves. And but by the way, it is what the law says. I am not the one who wrote the law. And one thing, Mr. Tabi, we should also remind ourselves of is that it is even provided for by that same law that if people, when you declare a manifestation, you inform the authorities in question as to the itinerary you are going to use.
But the authority also has a right to
If they notice
to
that
deny a
they
manifestation.
have the right to deny, but if they also notice that the road you are going to use, if they know that it could cause an incident, they also have the right to propose another trajectory that you can use. You see, secondly,
that's the first option.
Secondly, they have the duty to even provide uniform officers who accompany you to ensure that people do not destroy anything. And still, to disagree with what my brother said here, you will notice that the few instances where Cameroonians have gone out into the sea or have attempted to go out and it turned out negative, is not because the population starts the destruction, but because uniform officers start by brutalizing the people who are simply marching peacefully.
Okay.
I want to, Mr. Tabi, please, just a second.
No, we
Just a
have
second.
we don't have much
Let me
time.
go back to
We
the
are concluding.
northwest region, northwest region, southwest, northwest.
Yeah.
You realize that where we are today is as a consequence of this brutality,
We are-
where people went out with peace
we are-
plans, but you opted to go in for what? Military brutality.
We have heard you. Roger Noir, please, we are concluding. What do you have to say about public manifestations in Cameroon? Please, can we
Right.
still have our title on the screen, please?
Like my co-panelists said, there is a law that governs public manifestations in our country. And the fact is that the administrative authorities are not applying that law. One, because according to provision of that law, when you file a declaration of a public manifestation, you should be given a receipt immediately. The law does not say later, it says immediately. That is, you have to go out with a document.
You have 1
Now,
minute. 1 minute. We are concluding.
actually, you don't. They don't do it. When you come, you just drop the declaration,
Let me
and
give
then
us the title on the screen, please.
they later call you to come and take the receipt. It should not be happening
1
that
minute.
way.
1 minute.
And concerning the public manifestation that was scheduled for yesterday, for tomorrow, as we know, it was banned. It was banned on very precarious reasons. When they mention threat to public order and a threat of propagation of the COVID-19. Now, when people march in Mokolo, there was no threat of propagation of COVID, or that was only for the CPDM militants in Yaoundé. When people went on the street in Ebolova, there were not a threat to the propagation of COVID. Only militants of and sympathizers of the CPDM.
We say thank you.
No, it's a problem.
We say thank you.
We
Roger
we
Noir.
cannot accept such injustices.
We
It's too much to bear.
we have come to the end of our program. Thank you, Roger Noir. Thank you, Sylvanos. Thank you, Gine, Bane Elvis. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the Republican debate. We say thank you, a big thank you to all our technicians, Pafe Okala, Ada Amandine, of course, Serge Bida and Ledu. We say thank you. Take another appointment as what concerns the Republican debate. Same time next week on the same channel. Till then, we say, may God continue to bless the Republic.